Alright, Shalom Israel. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM and Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect. Alright, I want to get, or go in rather into this book that the Spirit had me, start to read. It's called The Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins, as you see right here on the screen. And, this is a good book, man. It's a good read. It's not even that expensive. It's like maybe $10. And it just goes into the atrocities of the conquistadors, alright, which are Edomites, or so-called white men from Spain, against you tribes, man. And this book goes into, as you see, the Mexicans, which are the INIQUITES in the scriptures. Alright, and in this book, it calls them Aztecs because that's what they were known as, man. Alright, they were known as Aztecs, or as the so-called white man likes to call them, Indians, which the word Indian means savages, man. And in this book, goes into how really Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, these conquistadors, as they were called, they felt what's the word I'm looking for? They felt justified in their wickedness because Israel was doing a lot of wickedness. Because if you know about anything about the Aztecs, like that movie Apocalypto even shows you of how they were doing a lot of blood sacrifices. So, that these conquistadors, they seen them as heinous people, so they felt okay to kill them off like this. Which they were going off as well. Alright, but as the scriptures say, and I believe it was Zephaniah or Zechariah, I think it was Zephaniah, how the Lord was yet a little displeased at Israel, but they have helped forward the affliction. Okay, and like I said, I'm just gonna read a little bit. I'm only on chapter 2, and I felt, this. Hey, I gotta do a lesson on this, man. Cause Esau, Edom, there's a reason why the Most High hates you, man. And there's a reason why you Israel, you tribe, should be hating them, man. First and foremost, because the Most High hates them. And because of all the wickedness they did to you, man. Okay? Alright, so, I'm going to start in, like I said, chapter 2. Which this chapter is titled Indian Sacrifice. Alright, so it says, after plundering Tenochtitlan, Cortes branded the faces of its inhabitants with hot irons and attempted to force divulgation of the location of the fabled Aztec treasures. Alright, because in the previous chapter, it basically goes into how, Cortes and, the Spaniards that came with him, they basically, were at war with the Aztecs, man. Alright, under the Aztec leader known as Montezuma. So it says, after plundering, in this book, it also shows you that you had, always you had sellouts among Israel, man. Because you had some that believed that this guy, Hernan Cortes, and the rest of them, well, they said that Hernan Cortes was like a godlike. They attributed him to be as a Quetzalcoatl, which is their version of Yahawashi, who we call Yahawashah, or who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Alright, yeah, so it's a good read, man. So, alright, so getting back into it, it says, Cortes branded the faces of its inhabitants with hot irons and attempted to force divulgation of the location of the fabled Aztec treasures. Alright, because they had a lot of gold. Actually, before they Montezuma and his men, they went to war with the conquistadors. They actually tried to bribe them and soften their hearts, as it is written in the scriptures. The gift destroys the heart. Okay, but obviously, as we see, that didn't work. So it says, though $15 million worth of gold was founded, this represented only part of what was known to exist. For his efforts, Cortes was ennobled by the King of Spain and made Marquess of Valley of Coaxa, captain general, and given a large estate with 23,000 vassals. But Cortes became bitter at not having been appointed viceroy to the country he had conquered. He did grant Montezuma's son a quarter of Mexico City, which, you know what, before I continue to read, I'm going to look up that word viceroy because I haven't even looked that up. So let's do a quick Google search. Viceroy. Alright, so a viceroy is a ruler exercising authority in a colony on behalf of a sovereign, a governor, a deputy, a representative. Alright, so he's pissed off that he wasn't being appointed governor over that the land of Mexico, or that Mexico City at the time. It says he did grant Montezuma's son a quarter of Mexico City as a fief, and in Spain arranged for the marriage of Montezuma's surviving daughters to members of the Spanish nobility, having given to one of his subordinates as wife the native mistress of his avengers, La Malinche, without whose intermediary efforts he could hardly have conquered New Spain. Cortes married Doña Juana de Zuniga, niece to the Duke of Bahar. Which this also goes to prove too amongst the tribes, man, how you have a lot of Edomites, man. Alright, because the lineage goes by the seed of the father, and as you just read, you had conquistadors, or a lot of the Aztec women, forcibly married, or even a lot of them was raped, as we're going to get into as well. Alright, and of course they had kids. Alright, those kids would be known as Edomites, so-called white people. Alright, but reading on, it says, when Cortes returned with enough Spaniards and native allies to defeat the Mexica, because like I said, they in the previous chapter, they were actually they were actually at war. With the Spaniards were actually at war with the natives at that time. Alright, which at one point they were outnumbered, but then they came back to raise hell upon them, even more hell. So it says, when Cortes returned with enough Spaniards and native allies to defeat the Mexica, he ordered the great and beautiful city of Tenochtitlan destroyed. Palaces, columns, and gods were buried in the mud. To avoid the stench of the dead, the Spaniards set up camp to the nearby village of Coyoacán. Groups of captive Indians razed every last building of the Aztec capital and filled in the canals till not a stone was standing. On the level ruins, Cortes found his own great capital, Mexico City, patterned on a feudal model already dying in Europe. It says Mexican slaves by the thousands, many of them highly skilled as sculptors, carpenters, masons, and gardeners, hauled stone and timber from the debris of Tenochtitlan, which also goes to prove how the Iskar built the pyramids, man. Which, on another note, those pyramids are still standing to this day, man, over there in Mexico and so on and so forth, man. This how you can also goes to show, alright, that they're Israelites, man. They helped build the pyramids along with the southern tribe, the so-called blacks and West Indians and Haitians back in the ancient Egypt, back in the time of Exodus. So it says iron chisels and iron hammers enabled them to cut the porous red stone of the valley into Palladio European houses, over the doors of which the new hidalgos, which that word hidalgos basically it said in Spanish means son of something. Alright, so basically the Europeans could place their carved as escutcheons where Indian palaces and pyramids had stood, churches and monasteries sprang up complete with battlements, buttresses, and heavy grilled windows against the Indians who had built them. Surviving on drinking water and a few tortillas, the Indians, at their own expense, supplied all the work and all the material brought up from childhood to a Spartan life, trained to endure pain. They worked long hours without showing fatigue. Okay, proving that this is Issachar, man. He is hired. They worked long hours without showing fatigue, what they do today, constantly subjected to unbelievable savagery by the Spaniards. All right, and on a side note, I want to read an excerpt, as it says, is written on the side of the paragraph. It says, the Flemish artist Theodore de Brie depicted Indians hanging themselves or taking poison in acts of mass suicide from shock at the overthrow of their culture. Okay? It says, so great was the terror in Mexico about 1530 that Indians desisted from relations with their wives to avoid having children doomed to slavery. All right, and hey, this, while I read that, it just makes me think of this scripture. Let me just grab it real quick. This is Micah chapter 2 verse 2. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it's in the power of their hand. You know, because from day one in this book, it even shows you of how, you know, the Indians, the so-called Indians, the Aztecs, which, as I said, which are the Israelites, you know, one of the sons of Jacob, they entreated the conquistadors, nicely. Okay, but the conquistadors, they only wanted nothing but blood, you know, which that's Esau's Edom MO, man. No matter how nice you treat them, they still gonna act like a damn beast, a savage, man. The only thing they know is kill. It's to kill. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. And also, as I read this, you know, it makes me think of that movie, Conquest of Paradise, which this devil, Christopher Columbus, you know, he, it shows you how he, you know, him along with the King Ferdinand, and Queen Elizabeth, they worked evil, man. They were actually the spearhead, you know, for the those so-called Europeans coming over here, man, to the mainland. All right, and they wasn't coming over. They wasn't coming over here to be friends with you. They should even show you that movie, man. They were coming over, all right, to you know, for resources and gold. All right, but hey, they found people. So what? They found slaves. Okay, and it's like I said, there's many resources. There's another book by Bartholomew de las Casas called Destruction of the Indies, man, which he even goes into how nice and how subtle, if that's the right word, how basically subjective the natives were. So it says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Okay, so reading on in the book, it says, so great was the terror in Mexico about 1530s that Indians desisted from relations with their wives and to avoid their children doomed to slavery. When asked to describe Christians, an old chief replied, they asked for maize, which is corn, for honey, for cotton, for woman, for gold, for silver. Christians will not work. They are liars, gamblers, perverse, and they swear. And you know, Lord willing, I'm going to get into that. That's going to be another lesson going into these religions, man. You know, because right now they disguise it as you know, Christianity's disguised as, you know, white Jesus loving everybody, but this is not how it was brought to our ancestors, man. All right, it was brought, you know, it was forced upon us, okay. But like I said, that's going to be another lesson, Lord willing. But back in Micah 2:3, therefore thus saith Yahweh, behold, against his family do I advise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go heartily, for this time is evil. It says, in that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled. He had changed the proportion of my people. How have he removed it from me? Turning away, he hath divided our fields. Okay. Hey, but that was the point, man. You know, hey, the Most High said, woe or death unto you, right, that cover fields and oppress a man in his heritage, man. That divides iniquity upon your bed. You're going to have to pay for that, man. In the book of James, okay, James 2:10 tells us, for whosoever, let me see. Oh, it's like 2:13. For he shall have judgment without mercy, that have shewed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. All right, hey, so when the tables are turned, all right, when we get you in slavery, it's gonna, hey, the scriptures say how we're gonna do double unto you, man. Reward them even as they have rewarded us, man. Okay. And you know, like I said, I feel like through the Spirit, you know, the Lord had me finally started reading this. You know, especially at this point in time where you have a lot of you know, Issachar, as well as Zebulon, which are the Central Americans, you know, fighting tooth and nail to get over here, man, get into America. All right, when really you bring your kids to destruction, man. All right. Hey, so with that, you know, Lord willing, you can edify. Like I said, just a little bit of edification, all right, on your history, man. Especially for you so-called Mexicans, this is your history, man. All right. But as the scriptures say, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because you don't know this, man. Neither do you care to know, man. You look at it as if it's something, you know, in the past. All right, when really, you know, this sculpts your society as that you live in today, man. Okay. So with that, Lord willing, you can edified, as the elder over there in Chicago, Malcolm, he said Ababa Ball. All right, Mawaf Laba Ball. Shalom to the elect.